Welcome to my strength and conditioning webinar. So today I'm here to talk about obviously strength and conditioning. So my intention for you guys is to give you a great understanding of what strength and conditioning actually is. There's so many aspects of strength and conditioning, and most people think strength and conditioning is just getting in the gym and pushing out heavy weights. But that's the last thing that you really should be doing. So I want to make it quite clear what you should be doing to give you a better understanding so you can set a longer foundation. I see so many people go into the gym and they only last a month or 2 months or maximum 3 months because they're going, it's not working. I'm in the gym doing all these weights, it's not working. Either they get injured or they go backwards. So I'm going to give you a really good foundation of what you need to be doing to move forward to help you to build muscle, strength, stability, whatever your goal is, whatever your sport is, to make it more sustainable and longer lasting, right? That's the most important thing. Okay, I see everyone wants a quick fix these days. There's no such thing as quick fixes. It's all about long term, right? Long term, and that's what I'm about. I'm about creating a long-term, holistic result, okay? A little bit about me first. If you don't know me or we haven't met, there's a couple of people on I haven't met before. So welcome, thanks so much for joining me. For me, strength and conditioning started at an early age, and I posted this story in one of my emails recently. I first started getting into gym work or strength work at 10 years old. A primary school friend of mine, his dad took us to the gym and exposed us to obviously a stock standard old school type gym back then. So I had my first experience on machines, and I loved it, jumping on every machine, doing every exercise I could at 10 years old was pretty exciting for me, and it was a passion that just pretty much grew from there. I worked as a PT in the fitness industry for 12 years now, training thousands of clients. I don't know, I tried to work this out. I think 12 years in the fitness industry, at one stage I was training 30 to 40 up to 50 clients a week. If you do that over probably at least 10 years, that's a big number of clients that I've helped to obviously achieve many goals. And obviously in the fitness industry, you start out as a beginner, as a PT, and you learn so much and you grow so much in yourself as well. So 12 years working in the fitness industry has taught me absolutely so much. And I'm so grateful that I can turn this into a full-time job now. And obviously coming on board to more online coaching now, I'm really grateful that I can experience it, and I can still work from obviously great places in the world like Thailand, where I am today. So something for me, the sports, I've played pretty much about every sport that you can think of. Some of the most recent stuff that I've done in the last 10 years is motocross. I raced motocross for about 6 years. So that taught me a lot as well. Obviously, if you race motocross, you can't be scared to come off the bike. So I came off a lot and I hurt myself a lot. So rehabilitation, I learned a lot through that as well in regard to injuries, which has been another awesome experience. And I've had several car accidents. So one of the major car accidents I had was back in 2003 or 4, I think it was now. It was a pretty bad one. I didn't have a seatbelt on. And we T-boned another car. I pretty much went into the windscreen and smashed all the dash up, so I lost a couple teeth. I had some pretty bad facial injuries. I had whiplash in the neck, and I had a lower back injury as well. So that was another sort of rehab thing that I had to learn. I was pretty much 6 weeks on the couch, couldn't work, couldn't do nothing. So that was a big eye opener. And I think the biggest thing I learned after that was life is so short. People wait for something to go wrong before they actually make change. That's a big thing I learned. So I admitted back in 2003 to having a drinking problem, which was a big eye opener for me, which taught me to create some goals and set really good visions. And it made my mind a lot clearer to create a lot more pathways. And that's something I'll talk to you about shortly as well, predicting your pathway. So, guys, I'd love you to post what your expectations are of this strength and conditioning webinar. tonight because I'd love to give you what like you want to hear. I've got obviously everything all planned out, but if you've got anything that like you want to hear specifically, I'd love to hear it. So just post it. I've got it on my screen. I can see what comes up. I've got my computer in front of me as well, so I might be able to like write back if I'm not talking too much or too distracted. So I'll open up the last 10 minutes of this as well, just to answer any questions, anything you do have in regard to strength and conditioning, anything you're not sure of, whatever I've explained to you, if it's not informative enough or you're not too sure, just so let's open that up for the next 10 minutes, but for the last 10 minutes, but if you've got anything in the meantime, please post. Please post. I've also got some free gifts as well for you guys. I'm going to post a heap of stuff later on. Everything I'm going to be talking about, I want to post. So I've got my M15. I've got a heap of like videos, core conditioning stuff. So I'm going to post that in the group after the webinar. But if you stay to the end, I've got a 2-week coaching strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning. Thank you. Great, Kat. Thanks for joining me. So let's get into it. First of all, strength and conditioning. I want to start at the bottom, at the foundation of strength and conditioning. Right? Strength and conditioning, as I said, it's not about getting in the gym and pushing big weights. It's about setting a foundation first. If you don't have your foundations correct, right, that's when things go wrong. Right? So I want to talk about, first of all, my 6 steps to optimal health. So these are even before you even think about getting into the gym. Right? So number 1 is like goal setting. Right, and I talk about this, I'm big on goals, right? I'm really big on goals. I love goal setting. It's all about creating a vision. If you haven't got a goal, it's why you're going to the gym. Right? You need to get your goals quite clear. And if you go into the gym, like, why strength? Right? So these are some like really important questions that you need to ask yourself. Right? Like, why strength and conditioning? Is it because you want to do a triathlon, or you want to lose weight, or you want to be a stronger runner? Whatever it is, ask yourself like, why? Okay, so that's a really important question. So number 2, okay, like breathing. It's important that we understand that we know like how to breathe correctly. If you're a short, shallow breather through the chest, right, so this can create a lot of dysfunction in regard to posture. Right, because if we're short, shallow, we start to round our back, and like the mechanics of the posture aren't going to be working correctly. Right, so that's a real important thing as well. Now, I've got some breathing like videos. I'll post that up as well. But so most importantly, just to keep it like really short and sweet, you've got to be breathing through the diaphragm. In through the nose, push the belly out. Exhale, it draws in. It's not this short, shallow chest breath stuff. You need to be breathing through the diaphragm, right? So these are the foundations, right? Okay, like hydration. It's so important that we're drinking 2 to 3 litres of good quality water per day. I see so many people like drinking tap water still. Adelaide tap water, not good, right? You don't want to be drinking that. The reason why, because the chemicals in the water are going to kill all the enzymes in your digestive system. You don't want that, right? If you want to build strength, you can't be killing all them enzymes in your digestion, right? It's not going to be positive at all. You need to cut out your tap water, full stop. Look, if you're going to be drinking a Puritap, fine, add sea salt into it. But if you want to get on a high alkaline water, I recommend the Kangen Waterlight machine is the best, okay? Because it's going to put out an alkalinity of 9.5, right? And that's going to be great for the cell, driving into the cells. It's going to be great for recovery. It's going to be good for hydration, and it's good for so many things I won't go into right now. So, in a nutshell, hydration. We're talking 2 to 3 litres of good quality water per day, please. Sleeping, right? Sleeping. We need to be sleeping 10 p.m. in bed asleep to 6 a.m. These are crucial sleeping times to work with your circadian cycles. If you want strength and you're not sleeping in those times, you will not recover properly. You will not build like muscle, increase stability, whatever your goal is in regard to strength. Right? So it's super important we're sleeping 10 to 6 a.m. Right? It can't be 12 to 8, it's got to be 10 to 6. Our body works with the sun and the moon. It's called your circadian cycles. Another one I won't go into too deeply. If you want some more information on it, just like Google circadian cycles and sleeping. You'll get a heap of information there. Excuse me. Okay, like nutrition. I'm going to touch on this a bit later as I go through some of these examples that I posted in the group before in regard to our annual training plans and our nutrition plans. But the most important thing for nutrition is that we understand our metabolic typing, right? So this is the ratios of food that we're putting in our body. So we're talking about your protein, carbs and fats, right? If you're eating too much carbohydrates and you're a protein type, you aren't going to get the best response in regard to performance or optimizing your health or weight loss in regard to nutrition. So it's important we understand metabolic typing. Okay, I've got a metabolic typing questionnaire if you're not too sure exactly what that is. So that's a series of questions that will identify if you're a protein type, carbohydrate type, or mixed type combination. Right, so that's an important factor as well. Nutrition is a big factor of strength and conditioning, definitely. Alrighty, let's talk about exercise. So obviously exercise is strength and conditioning. So let's just touch on a few major foundation points in regard to our exercise. One of the things I'm big on in regard to strength and conditioning is your training age. Right? Training age is not the years that you've been training. I said before, I've been training since 10 years old in the gym. Okay, but I'm almost 40 now, so that's 30 or so years of a training age. That's not my training age, right? So this is your training age that you've trained with a professional or a expert to teach you the right way. So if I look at my training age, it's probably only about 12 to 15 years. Because at 10 years old, do you think I was doing the right thing in the gym? Hell no. It was horrible. It was pretty bad. And even from in my 20s, early 20s, I was following stuff out of all the bodybuilding magazines, right? I was trying to look like them. But again, do you think I was doing the right thing? Definitely not. Technique was horrible. Posture was not good. And I was probably doing more damage, than good in regard to technique and posture. So training age is the amount of time that you've spent training in the gym with a fitness professional. If it's a PT, a coach, it could be a physio, it could be whatever. All right? A fitness professional, someone who can coach you in regard to technique and posture. So that's pretty much my 6 steps to optimal health, and they're the foundations to building a good platform before progressing into strength and conditioning. So I want to talk about some of the things I've put together as well. So these are probably the next step in regard to the foundations. So I'll run through them quickly. Posture, as I spoke about just before. Posture is something that is really important. It's something I've been passionate about for probably the last 10 years of my personal training career. I think it's everything. If you haven't got good posture, you can't build a good strength and conditioning base. All right, it's pretty much the foundation for so many things, not just strength and conditioning, for triathlon, for running, for cycling, for swimming. So it's a massive thing to make sure that we've got good posture. And I'm going to talk about that as we go through the annual training plans. Hey Sharon, hey Paul, thanks for joining. Movement. Right, if you haven't got good posture, then you haven't got good movement. So it's so important to be able to move properly. Again, I see people going in the gym and they're trying to do exercises that they can't do properly because they can't move. Right, so these is a really important thing, and it leads on to core conditioning. Right, people are really big on core these days, and they're trying to do all these advanced exercises that are way too advanced, and they're causing more damage than good. But all right, if you haven't got good movement, you can't do the core exercises. It's pointless. I'll tell you why. Because mobility in the hips is an important factor. Because if you haven't got mobility in the hips, right, so what is your core attaching to? It all attaches into your hips, right? So if you're trying to do these core exercises and you're all locked up in your hips, you're not really going to improve your core. you're wasting your time. Total like wasted time. So that's why movement, posture, movement and flexibility always comes before core conditioning. If your hips are so glued up and tight and you can't even squat properly or lunge properly or bend properly, and you're doing core exercise to try to improve your core, and it's an advanced core exercise, all you're going to be doing is probably like working your hip flexors and like the muscles in your back to give you back pain and make your posture a lot worse. So this is like really important. Hey Saray, hey Angela, thanks for joining. Shoulder function. Shoulder function is everything. We have 16,000 shoulder positions. 16,000 shoulder positions, right? So what do you see like when people go into the gym on the machines? They're doing a shoulder press, and we've got 16,000 shoulder positions, right? So that can be a big problem. So the things I focus on is like the scapula, it's rotator cuffs. So these are two of the major things that people are missing out on, like when they're going into a strength and conditioning program. If they're not focusing on scapular activation, movement, right? If their scapulas can't move, I get people try to do a push plus, and their scapulas or their rhomboids, all their muscles are just locked up. So they can't even move their scapulas. They won't open and close. Right? So if you go into a strength and conditioning program and you're doing a chest press or a shoulder press and your scapulas are jammed, all you're doing is putting pressure right in the shoulder joint, and you're going to get a rotator cuff tear. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. So that's something just to be conscious of, making sure that you've got good scapular activation, movement, range of motion, right, in your shoulders, and you've also got that rotator cuff condition, stability, right? People don't have the stability in their shoulder joint. You've got, I'll call this like the humerus attaches into the joint, all right, a ball and socket, right? And you've got all this subluxation, or you've got a tight muscle that causes it to lock and not to move properly, right? If that can't move, that can't pivot in that ball and socket, right, there's going to be a lot of muscles under strain. So this is another foundation. Flexibility. So I've sort of separated posture, movement and core, and flexibility. The reason being is because the posture is generally 3 or 4 exercises that you focus on to correct your posture. Right? Posture correction is not something that I can give a program for, a general program, sorry. It's more an individual program for your needs. So it could be a forward head posture, it could be an anterior pelvic tilt, it could be a posterior pelvic tilt, or it could be some sort of problem with your spinal curvatures, a flat spine or a too curved spine in your lumbar. Generally, you see a lot of thoracic curvature up the top here, which starts to put a lot of pressure on the shoulders as well. So if you haven't got some mobility in the shoulder, right, and you've got a tight thoracic spine, and you're doing strength training, you're probably going to get an injury. It's going to be a rotator cuff tear for sure. Right? So this is all crucial stuff to make sure. Nutrition is a big factor in strength and conditioning, because if you're not putting the right food in your body and you're trying to build strength, right, it's not going to happen. If you're trying to lose weight and you're in the gym, right, trying to increase your muscle mass so you can speed your metabolism up to burn more fat, it's going to be a big problem, right? So nutrition is huge, right? It's a really, really big thing. The last one on my list is training phases. It's the last one because you wouldn't step in the gym and try to do a program unless you've got all these things right first, right? Training phases is essential. It's a really big thing. It depends on your sport. It depends on your goals, depends on so many factors, right? And you see so many people, I can get a strength training program off the internet, right? You see people getting training programs off the internet, yeah, of course, but it's not specific to your needs, right? And your needs come from, obviously, your goals and your sport, and obviously, your posture, your movement, your flexibility, all these things I'm talking about. So all these things tie in, all this information ties in to get a specific training program to suit your needs. How long does conditioning your posture and muscles take? Great question. Changing posture, I've been working on my posture for over 12 years. Right? It's an ongoing process. Right? Like generally I see someone come in and I do a postural assessment, I can change their posture in 4 weeks. Right? But it's never perfect because things change, our training loads increase, so everything changes in our body all the time. Right? So it's important to make sure that we're ongoingly assessing our posture and making sure that we're making like those changes to suit. So it's a great question, Kat. Thanks for asking. Posture correction can be achieved in 4 weeks, right? If you're doing the homework. I call it homework because it's 3 to 4 exercises, as I said, and you're doing it every day, right? Posture can be achieved in 4 weeks if you're doing it every day. And I see people that come in that might do their posture homework, say like once a week. Could take 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But yes, once we get it corrected, it's an ongoing process as well. Because, example, if you've got a desk job and you sit at the computer all day, right, you're in this sort of position, you might need to be doing more corrective exercises, right? And it might change if you change job. There's so many factors that go into it, but I can say, as I said, we can change posture in 4 weeks, but it's an ongoing process to keep working on. And it depends how much posture correction training that you're doing in your own time. As I said, I call it homework and I call the exercises TV exercises. Hey Deb, thanks for joining. TV exercises are exercises that you can do after dinner, in front of the telly, on your carpet, on your floor. They're great to do. I love doing them. They're my favourite. So they're pretty much the phases that I've got, and I'll talk about them in a bit more detail shortly. So strength takes time. It's not going to happen in 12 weeks. I see so many people thinking that they're going to have great amount of strength in 12 weeks time. Yes, you can build strength in 12 weeks time, but there's all the foundation stuff that you have to do before you even go into the gym. Right? Before you even pick up a weight, you have to have those foundation processes correct. Okay. So, hope you guys had a quick look at what I posted earlier in regard to my annual training plans. So the annual training plans, as I said, I put them up before. So these are annual training plans. Let's go into multi-sport triathlon first, and then I'm going to talk about weight loss, and then I'm just going to talk about another sport as well, just to give you a rough idea exactly what they are. Now, I'll just get them up. Bear with me for a sec. Okay, so multi-sport coaching. I've got this up in front of me. If you can somehow get it up in front of you, that'd be great. If not, I did post it in the group. If you can scroll off of this and go into the group, that'd be great. So there's a few phases of the multi-sport athlete, right? Generally, I like to start a building phase of strength and conditioning in about April. Depends on your season, right? So this is pretty much about the end of the season in South Australia. After March is pretty much the last race. There's probably a few. Again, it depends on your goals. It depends what you want to achieve. There's a few other races coming up interstate and stuff like that. So you might have to adapt, change this, modify it to suit your needs. So, end of the day, a building phase is a preparation to build into your maximum strength. All right, it's going to be a starting point, another foundation. I'm talking about foundations a lot because it is so important to make sure that we have a foundation. Now, it's all about posture. So let's talk about posture. All right, in the first month of posture, it's about assessing and giving you 3 to 4 corrective exercises to make some changes. And then we come back pretty much 12 weeks after that, reassess, and then we go into a new program. All right, because as I said, things start to change. In the second phase of starting to build in regard to posture, so we go into a second program, and that lasts for generally another 3 months, and then it's another reassessment. The same thing as we go into a peak strength sort of phase, but the posture correction exercises are going to get more advanced as we go along. Right, the core conditioning. So let's talk about core conditioning. So the core conditioning for the multi-sport athlete is all about starting with some activation stuff first. Right, activation stuff is more, as I said before, about the breathing. It's more pelvic floor activation and getting like the lower abs to fire up. In the core conditioning program, I like to work the glutes as well, because if the glutes aren't functioning, right, they work pretty much in conjunction with the core. If we're talking about your cycling or your running, right? If your core's not functioning, your glutes aren't going to be functioning. So it's important to make sure that the glutes are functioning just as good as the core. So in that first month, in that first phase of starting to build up, it's all about getting activation in the core and the glutes. And then we start to progress in. If you had a look at that annual plan that I've got, right, I've got numbers on that plan. Core conditioning program 1. Alright, so these are a series of programs I've built that have got 3 to 4 exercises that I schedule in to each of my athletes as a progressive building phase through phase 1, 2, peak strength, and then obviously peak performance, which is going to be in season. Right? So we need to get athletes involved in peak performance as a stepping stone up into that phase. Hey Bron, thanks for joining. Hey Fraser, thanks for joining. So as you can see, I've got program 1, 2 as we go into phase 2. It's program 3, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, and 4. So it's all about starting to build, but then we come back to rebuild. Because it's important to, if we start on a program number 1, like basic stuff and activation, it's always important to come back to that. Alright, so we need obviously recruitment patterns before we go into anything too big. Let's talk about shoulder conditioning as well. Alright, I mentioned this before. Shoulder conditioning is a big part of a multi-sport athletes program, mainly because they're spending a lot of time swimming. Right, if you haven't got the rotator cuff condition when you're swimming, right, so what you're going to do is either get a strain, a tear, or an impingement, or tightness. Right, tightness is the most common thing. External rotator cuff tightness, because we're always internally rotating. External rotators tighten up, right? And if they're tightening up, so what happens? We start to lose the internal rotation, so we can't catch properly. If we can't catch, it almost it stops there. It should go to there, but it stops there because we're so tight in the shoulders, right? And if we start forcing that catch, because we've been there before, so we've had that range of motion, we start to now put a lot of pressure in the rotator cuffs, which starts to lead to a strain, tear, impingement, or soreness, right? So most people get, I can't swim because my shoulder's so sore, right? That's the number 1 common cause of swimmers, sore shoulders. And it's a simple fix, right? In the short term, they just have to stretch that rotator cuff. And I've shown you guys a lot of that stretch where we're stretching internally rotating and stretch the external rotator cuffs. Just a good couple of weeks on that and it's good to go. Short term. Long term, we need to work on the rotator cuffs in all different positions because we've got 16,000 shoulder positions, right? So that's super important to make sure that we're conscious of when we're swimming as well. So in the shoulder conditioning program, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably haven't looked at the annual training plan that I'm talking through. So shoulder conditioning program, the building phase, it's all about just getting activation, just like the core. All right, and then we start to progress in to more strength and conditioning in all different positions. So these are progressions. Hey Brian, hey Wayne, thanks for joining. So it is important to make sure we're progressing the core and the shoulder as well. It's important to be assessing the core and the shoulder as well. Now I've got a couple proprioception tests that I do as well, that to make sure that the proprioception is improving. There's a few tests that I do in the gym as well, just to make sure your strength is improving. So that's the most important thing in regard to shoulder stability, making sure we're changing the program up as well every 4 weeks. Okay, because if you're a multi-sport athlete, everything's always changing, so you have to always adapt and you have to always condition your body to different changes, right? And that means changing your shoulder position, changing your shoulder strength, okay, like the loads, the reps and the sets and the tempos is all important. That's in my shoulder conditioning programs. I'm changing all that constantly. So let's go into flexibility and recovery for the multi-sport athlete. Now, it is separate from the posture and the core because, look, even though if you're not tight in a certain muscle group, and I didn't put that into your corrective exercise program, even though those muscles have been worked, it's important to keep it flexible. Because if you don't keep a full body flexibility program, right, that's when the posture will start to change again, and it could go back the other way, right? So if you've got a good posture program and you're not stretching work muscles that you've done from either your swim, bike, run or gym workout, right? So these muscles are going to get tight, and the posture could change, right? So that's why a good flexibility program is great to have in conjunction with your core conditioning program and your flexibility program. So what I recommend in a building phase, approximately the multi-sport athlete in the first month is spending about 30 minutes a day. In the second month, I've recommended incorporate some sort of yoga, at least once a week, 1 or 2 times a week. Incorporate some sort of yoga. All right, it's great for flexibility. And sometimes as multi-sport athletes, we get too lazy in stretching, right? And we'll only stretch if we get an injury. And we'll go, oh shit, I pulled a hamstring, I better make sure I keep stretching now. It's too late, right? So it is important not to be too lazy, right? And put the time in. It's only half an hour a day. Look, it could be, say 15 in the morning to 15 at night. But I recommend, as a multi-sport athlete, that we do incorporate some sort of yoga. I think that's really important because you're getting a full body stretch, right? It's your hamstrings, your quads, your hip flexors, it's your glutes, it's your adductors, it's your thoracic spine, it's your chest, it's your neck. It's everything that is getting stretched in a 1 hour yoga class. Okay, so something I recommend incorporating in those type of phases in the month, right? In season, it's not so important. In season, it's more important that we do our own sort of full body flexibility program. Phase 2, building, again, probably a little bit more yoga. So we can change 1 month into yoga, 1 month into our flexibility program. All right, it depends what you want to do. What I'm putting, as we go into peak strength, as you're trying to peak your strength, right? And I'll talk about a bit more sooner as we go into the phases. As we start to peak our strength, recovery is just as important. It's more important, right? Because the loads of the strength and conditioning is going to be higher, right? So it's going to be more important that we do more stretching in the morning and more stretching at night. Ideally, if we're doing a strength conditioning program and we're still on our triathlon training program, okay, half an hour in the morning and half an hour at night, right? Hey Nikki, thanks for joining. I recommend as well that we start to incorporate some sort of recovery, okay? Ice bath is something I love to do most nights, right? If we can get 10 minutes or so in the ice bath, it's going to make a massive difference to the recovery for you to be able to perform a lot better the next day. If we go into a peak training phase, right, you're going to be sore. You're going to be really, really sore, especially if them loads of that strength and conditioning program is up. Okay, so the reps are lower and the loads of the weight is higher. So we need the recovery. Right, 10 minutes in the ice bath in that peak strength phase. Right, super important. And I recommend, if we can, start to build up to 1 hour a day stretching. Okay, so that's going to reduce the chance of injury by about 90%. Right, so most multi-sport athletes, they get injured because they're not stretching, okay, and they're not working on core and posture and all that other stuff. Hey Courtney, thanks for joining. So, so let's move in to like movements, right? Now, if you've been like following me for a while, I talk about my M15 session. So these is movement training I've created in 15 minutes, right? Starting from level 1 to 10. Now I'll put that into the annual training plan to work in conjunction with the strength and conditioning phases, the core conditioning and the posture, and nutrition as well. So if we talk about phase 1, it's all about level 1 and 2. So this is pretty much movement and creating endurance. Okay, teaching the body to move. The number one thing I see when people go into the gym, they can't move, they can't squat, they can't lunge, they can't bend, they can't push, they can't pull, they can't twist, and they can't gate properly. So if you're on a multi-sport program, you're trying to run, you can't gate, there's going to be some major problems, mainly in your sacroiliac joint in your lower back, right? Because if your hips don't move, right, that centerpiece, that sacroiliac joint is going to take all the load and you're going to have chronic back pain eventually, right? So movement is really important. So in that building phase, I go to level 1 and 2. 2 is more teaching you to squat, teaching you to bend, to lunge, and to twist. No loads, all body weight stuff, right? Because if you're going into that gym and you're loading up on that rack, that squat rack, and you can't bend properly because your glutes are too tight, right, there's going to be major problems occurring. So maybe not that week or that month or that quarter or that 6 months or that 12 months, but it will happen eventually. So it's important to make sure all these problems are rectified before we start to load. And that's what I'm trying to give you guys a good foundation to understand. As we go into more phase 2, we start to go into a level 2 on the M15, a level 3, it's more muscle conditioning, and then we go back to level 2 again. Peak strength, we go level 3 and 4, which is a max sort of strength in the M15 sessions, and then in December at the end of the peak strength, we go back to level 1. The same with January, February and March, because it's going to be the in-season. Okay, the in-season of our training program, of our main program, is going to be more level 1. So these are more recovery sessions. Right? Recovery sessions, active recovery sessions to get your body to move again. Right? Because if we just spend 2 or 3 hours on the bike in this position, the hips are locked up, everything's tight. So we need to open that up so we can start to move again properly. And again, it's not causing injury. Right? So that's pretty much the movement, and I'm going to post at the end my first 3, so level 1, 2 and 3 in this group. So if you're interested in what I'm talking about with the M15, excuse me, please check that out. Okay, so let's talk what I've got for nutrition. Right, nutrition is really important for the multi-sport athlete. Starting in phase 1, I would normally put them on a strength plan. Right, so this is something, because they're going in, they're starting with obviously the strength stuff. They need the proteins and the carbohydrates to build that muscle and to get that strength. So I've got a set of nutrition plans that I've got all set out that I put in my athletes training peaks programs, or whatever the platform is that I do use. I put that in. So that might be a 4-week strength and conditioning plan. So that works in conjunction with the training phases, and obviously the multi-sport program as well. So as we go into phase 2, it's more an optimal recovery program. So these are more foods that are going to help that athlete to recover better. All right, so that's really important as well. As we go into peak strength, it's more a performance plan. So understanding what type of foods are going to be important for that athlete to be able to perform at their best, right? Performance food. So that can include so many things from superfoods to supplements, obviously all natural supplements, to obviously plant-based foods. Could be reducing like proteins to so many things, but it's more personalised as well for that athlete. All right, it's all about fine tuning, and I haven't spoke about it too much in this like phase, but so when we go into more like weight loss, it's all about identifying metabolic typing, as I mentioned before, identifying metabolic typing, then trying to fine tune that diet to suit that person's needs. So that is the nutrition, and then from the peak strength to peak performance, it's a pretty similar performance like nutrition plan. Hey Amanda, thanks for joining. So now let's get to like the heart of it, the training phases, right? So once we've started to create a good posture, a good core, some shoulder stability, and so we got a good flexibility and like recovery program. So we're starting to move properly, and the diet is good. It's all about putting those training phases into place. So if we talk about phase like 1, in that first like month, there's going to be an endurance like development, right? So what we do, we start to load light weights. So we're talking about up to 20 like repetitions, and it's only like 1 to 2 sets. So we're teaching good like movement now. All right, I've seen people that have been in the gym training for years. Right, I've been training for so long. Okay, like they tell me, and I get them to squat 20 kilos for 20 like reps with a slow tempo. Okay, like 4 down, 4 up, and I get them to squat that 20 times, and they can't do it, or they're fatiguing so much at the end of it that their posture has gone to shit. Right, so what does that tell you? They haven't gone through the correct phases to get where they need to be. Right, so that's a really important factor to make sure that we start at a development phase. Right, so once we've got some proper posture, movement, and we've got that endurance in the body, we can start to load the weight more, and then we start to increase the rep range. Okay, 20 to 30 like reps. And there's what we can start to do as we go into phase 2. Like we go into what we call a hypertrophy phase. Hypertrophy is what us personal trainers, coaches use for like muscle conditioning, muscle like building. All right, it's a name that we use. So the rep range in a hypertrophy program is more 8 to 12 like rep range. Okay, 8 to 12 rep range is going to get you more like muscle condition. And if you're looking at increasing your strength, okay, like your muscle like mass in the off season, so this is where you need to train, right? So this is really, really important. And then once we've stuck on a muscle conditioning program, like we can start to keep that like muscle conditioning, but then we start to put exercises that is going to replicate that athlete sport, right? So replicating that athlete sport. So it could be a functional exercise movement to like replicate what you're going to be doing as a swim. Okay, example, it could be a high cable like row to work on rhomboid strength, okay, and shoulder stability. So then we start to load that up, okay, to suit. So what we do, then we can progress in to more in the peak phase, right? We start to go into more strength endurance, sports replication. So this might be obviously keeping the rep range back down to 20 to 30 like rep range. It could include incorporating some plyometric conditioning as well. All right, so into that like phase, and then peak performance. Okay, strength and conditioning for peak performance. You may have noticed if you looked at the annual plan. All right, there is no. It's not applicable. You don't need to be doing any like big loads in that January to March like phase in regard to strength conditioning. So what you need to focus on a lot more is your core conditioning and shoulder conditioning program. Because look, if you're doing too much endurance stuff, like generally, example, as a multi-sport athlete, if you're racing every like weekend and you're trying to recover and you're trying to do more strength and conditioning, it's not going to work because you're not going to recover as well. So it is important, those like 3 months of that 12-month plan is that you just say, hey, I'm giving it a rest, the strength conditioning, I'm focusing on more posture, core, and shoulder stability work. Alright, so that is what the key thing. So if you're not too sure like what I'm talking about, have a look at that annual training plan for multi-sport athletes, please. Because that is going to give you the foundation, and it's going to give you a good idea of what like you need to be doing. Alright, we're just about out of time, guys. I've been talking for so long. I did have two others. I might just touch just quickly on the weight loss plan. If anyone is interested in a weight loss program, I think the most important thing like that I've changed is that we probably focus a little bit more on like the training age of that like weight loss person. Okay, the training age is important, and more assessing and more posture correction, because look, the most important phase to get you in regard to weight loss client is going to be that hypertrophy phase, that rep range 8 to 12. Alright, because we want you to be starting to build more like muscle mass, speed the metabolism up to burn more fat. Right? So that's probably going to be the most important thing. As I said, have a look at my annual plan that I planned out as well. And obviously, if you're on a weight loss program, the most important thing is going to be like nutrition as well, right? So I've made that a bit like different, and what I've incorporated in the intermediate phase, I've incorporated more juice fast and more focus on metabolic typing, more of a raw detox plan as well, just to give the like digestive system a break. So most thing I see that people they eat too much food, they start to block up their digestive system, right? So they get full and bloated, and there's so much inflammation there they can't process the food. So it is important to make sure that we go through some juicing, a raw detox, and then we can start to go into a bit of a strength plan in regard to like nutrition in conjunction with that hypertrophy program that I've got in there. As I said, if you're not too sure, have a good look over all my annual training plans. Right, so that's going to be a really important factor to look over. Okay, I'd just like want to open up. Has anyone got any questions? I know I've done a lot of talking. I'm hoping some of that has like made sense. There's probably a lot of it that you probably aren't too sure of, especially if you haven't had a look at some of the stuff I posted already. But it is like really important to have a look at that to give you a good idea. That's pretty much your program, but not your specific programs, like in a nutshell, right? Your specific programs for your core, for your shoulder, like for your strength endurance, and like your hypertrophy is going to be specific to your needs and your goals, right? So that's going to be something like really important to think about and look at. But please, has anyone got any questions? Post it in the group. Speak now or forever hold your peace. No? Any questions? No? Okay, cool. I'll just keep talking. If you've got any questions, please just post it in the group. Or if you don't want to post it in the group, you can send me a personal message. I'm more than happy to respond back. But look, I did say for all you guys that stay to the end, I've got a 2-week strength and conditioning program for you. So that's going to be some personal coaching with me in regard to your strength and conditioning. If you're already on my strength and conditioning program, unfortunately it's not applicable. But if you're not on that strength and conditioning program, I'm more than happy to give you that. So please, if you can send me some like details in regard to like your email, I'll set you up the Training Peaks account, and I'll send you also a questionnaire to like fill out as well, so I can find out a bit more about you, like your goals and stuff like that specifically. So please, all you guys that are on now, send me your email address, and I'll send you that information to get that started for you. So thanks so much for watching to the end, guys. Like, much appreciated. I hope I haven't rambled on too much, and I hope it is like what you expected. If it's not, it's probably a good thing, because I'm hoping I've given you some more education in regard to some like different stuff that you weren't too sure about. So I've sort of broke it down. As I said here from the beginning, it's more a holistic approach to strength and conditioning, right? It's not just about going to the gym and doing the weights. Not at all. That's the last thing, right, in regard to the foundation. It's about setting these foundations to have a long-term strength and conditioning plan, right? Because strength and conditioning is not like built in 12 weeks. Thanks, Gillian. There's so much more factors and so much more science in regard to strength and conditioning. So it's really important to understand that. Oh, something else I wanted to talk about. Look, if you guys are interested in what I've been talking about in regard to posture and strength, I'm organising a posture assessment and strength testing next Tuesday at the Fit Lab. So that's going to be something I highly recommend to understand your posture a lot better, to understand some corrective exercises a lot better, and then obviously have a good foundation in regard to like where your strength is at. So you can get on a strength and conditioning program and come back and test again. Because if you're not assessing, all you're doing is guessing. All right? So that's the important thing to think about. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. I love saying that because so many people are not assessing and they go out into the gym and they're guessing. Right? I'm doing like what that guy was doing next to me. Right? And that's when things start to go wrong. So yeah, keep in mind I've created like an event for that posture and strength testing next Tuesday at the Fit Lab Adelaide. I'm limiting it only to the first 10 people to say that they're going to that group. So please, if you're interested, I'll post it again in the group. I actually created it on the Facebook page, so you'll be able to just click going to that. If I get a good response, we will create another day on the Thursday, and that's in between like 5 and 6. So I'd love you guys to come along if you want to find out some more about your posture and where your strength is at. That'd be great. If you're on my program already, you're already assessing the posture and getting the strength testing like done. So congratulations on you for doing that already. Look, thanks so much for joining me, guys. It's been, I did say like 45 minutes, but it's been almost an hour. And I probably didn't get through everything I wanted to, but as I said, I hope that it's opened up your eyes to some, I think, like new information with a bit of a holistic approach to strength and conditioning. Don't forget, join the strength and conditioning, the assessment and the strength on Facebook, on my page, and also if you're interested in the 2-week coaching, send me your email address and I'll send you some more details. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great evening and speak to you soon. If you've got any other questions, you can send me a personal message, but don't forget I can help you. Check out my website, aaronbuchan.com. Bye for now.